Your attention, please. Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
Flight 95 to YYZ.
YYZ, Lester Pearson International in Toronto. What a city. Have you been there?
No, never.
Man.
Really? Did you like it?
I loved it. I was not excited about going. I don't know. I just didn't feel anything about it, but I really dig that city.
Oh, okay. So, well, now one more on my list. Has it the same feel than New York?
Well, there's this unfair characterization that Toronto is New York if it was run by the Swiss. But, and I don't think that that's fair, but it is clean. It works well. It's got a lot of character. I really, really liked it. It's one of my favorite discoveries in a long time.
Oh, that much. Okay, well, wow. That means I really need to go. As you guys know, I've actually never set foot in Canada in my entire life. Besides, I think in an airport just to do a layover, but that was not YYZ. And we'll also get to YYZ. Did I say that correctly? Yeah, YYZ.
YYZ. Yes, yeah, exactly.
So let's start. Tons of travels. I think we've done, if we combine our travels, 10 airports over the last 2 weeks. After a month of saying that we're not traveling, this is the complete opposite. Yeah. You've done quite a journey. I've done, I think, a little bit less of a complicated journey, but also quite some with interesting airlines, testing new airlines that we've never done, either of us. But let's start with saying happy birthday. Happy birthday to Airbus. 50 years of Airbus.
50 years. That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And have you seen the pictures of their formation? They went with a 220, 390 Neo, 330 900, 350 1000, a 380, and the Beluga.
Yeah, so cool. So cool. I would love to have seen that in person.
Me too. I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures on Twitter or Facebook, etc. There was all these pictures. Really cool. And a happy birthday, Airbus. They celebrated as well the delivery of their 12,000th aircraft, which was an A220-100 to Delta Airlines.
12,000?
That's a lot, right?
I'd love to know how many of those are still in service.
Well,
probably quite a few.
You flew, what was it, a 321 by Swiss that was like 55 years old last... Talking about the A220, we had mentioned that Airbus was revamping a little bit of the program since it's acquired it from Bombardier. They've actually increased the maximum takeoff weight by 2.3 metric tons, which enhanced the maximum range by 450 nautical miles. What does that mean? It means that now this plane, the 220, could do routes between Western Europe and the Middle East, from Southeast Asia to Australia, for instance.
That's going to open up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, they have 530 orders, I think, right now, and they're expecting to sell at least 7,000 of these aircrafts over the next 15 to 20 years. And in the U.S., since you were in the U.S., Alex, I mean, you were in North America, Delta and JetBlue are your best chances to fly it. And in Europe, currently, obviously, Swiss and Air Baltic. And talking about us, some reviews, I'm so sorry, guys. We aim at always trying to, every time you guys send us a message to try to mention it. We don't have time to do that, but usually I don't miss any of them. Well, I tried a new tool to survey all the worldwide iTunes, Apple Podcasts reviews. And holy cow, I've missed a lot, actually. My previous tool was only surfacing some of them. We had, and I'm not going to be able to actually mention you all, but sorry that we had reviews, Alex, from Mexico, from India, stuff from Canada, stuff from Africa. I also learned that we're number one podcast in Brunei, in Qatar, in Botswana, in the UAE. They're like, wow, I didn't realize we were so successful in some of these places. So sorry, guys, I didn't mention. I picked up two just to be nice. The first one from Mexico. I like the show very much. You talk about everything, planes, airports, 5 stars from Mexico, and another from India. Great podcast. Helps transport me to the air when I'm stuck stuck in traffic in Bangalore.
Oh, wow.
And adds that we should fly to Bangalore. Yeah. Have you ever flown to Bangalore?
No, I've
huh?
never been to Bangalore.
I have many friends who've been there. They tell me that's actually pretty cool. Two more recent reviews, one from Canada, from Zookeeper134. I guess he could be she, says that he needs more of our podcast, 5 stars. Our podcast is the best. Trust me, I try to listen to others and it's a waste of time. I mean, I don't know about that. You're the only ones I listen to, so you better start recording more or it's going to get boring out there. Seriously, you guys rock. Well, we try our best, but thank you so much. And Hershberg61 from the US, 5 stars. Finally listened to all 93 episodes and can't wait for more. Oh my God.
Wow.
You have some dedication, man, to be listening to for 93 times in a row. Talking about stuff that we might be missing in the future. Have you seen that Google is sunsetting the Google Trip app?
Yeah, such a frustrating habit of theirs. I mean, I understand that that they need to, allocate resources and all that, but it just seems to be they do it. Maybe I'm only hearing about the stuff I'm interested in and they do it with lots of products, but Google Reader, of course, was such a...
Oh, man. Yeah.
I was so disappointed to see that go. And then Google Trips, it was good because it was simple and, of course, being Google, super fast.
Yeah, exactly. The speed is like Google Flights. It's a bit strange that they're doing this because it's at the same time that they announced that they're going to invest way more into travel. So the travel segment of Google already today accounts for 15% of their revenue. 15.
Wow.
That seems high, but maybe that's true.
I believe it. I believe it. I think more and more people are using Google Flights. It's what I recommend almost always.
So the app disappears, but now what already existed for few of you as mobile web will now be rolled out everywhere. So now if you go on the web, your desktop or any mobile, you'll see something called also Trips, but it's not an app and it has Google Flights. We mentioned it in the previous episodes, Google Flights, Google Destinations, everything. The one thing that I am a little bit sad about, and this is why I wanted to mention the disappearance of the app, is that this is not offline. How do you do when you're in an aircraft looking for your hotel name that you need to fill on the immigration paper they give you? If you don't have Wi-Fi, you cannot use Google, thus you'll rely on TripIt and others. This is where an app is actually useful.
No, absolutely.
So did you have to fill any papers to get into Joburg?
No. Joburg Airport, I hadn't been there in quite a long time. I'd been to Cape Town a few times, but last time I was in Joburg, it was under massive renovation, and it seems to have A, finished, and B, been pretty successful because that airport was a breeze to go through.
So maybe let's start with this. Tell us the routing. We're going to segment it, obviously, for the show, but tell us the entire routing because it was everything in one go, right? You started in London, went to South Africa, so tell us which airports did you hit.
Joburg, a few hours in Joburg, and then to George, which is on the Garden route. And I was there for a night and then back to Joburg and up to London and straight over to New York and up to Toronto. 3 days in Toronto, then back to New York and back to London.
I mean, at least there's no real jet lag with Joburg from London, so that was not the problem. So which airlines did you fly?
I did BA in a 380 down to Joburg, and that was great. I mentioned this to you, actually, I think, on the ground. The first class lounge in Heathrow, the food is so much better than it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
We're finally seeing that Doe & Co. Influence, or not even influence, it's their product. But it is really, really good. Like delicious all around. It used to be just awful, but it's really good now. Really good.
And how was the experience in a 380?
Yeah, fine. I had an outside seat, which I'm not a huge fan of, meaning... well, the aisle seat. So you always feel quite exposed, but no, it was fine. The crew were excellent, and I got to know them quite well because they were the same crew on the way back up, but I'll come to that in a second. The crew were super friendly, and the experience was fine. I was really surprised, actually, because I got on and I had dinner, which was okay, and then I slept and slept and slept to the point where the flight attendant, because they now, I don't know if you experienced this, but now they give you this breakfast card and you fill out whether you want full breakfast, and they say they'll wake you, I think it's an hour and 20 minutes before landing, or you can just opt for a beverage and then it's 50 minutes and then don't wake me until the last minute and then it's 40 minutes. I just wanted a coffee. when we landed, the flight attendant that was in my area said, "I'm really sorry, I just couldn't wake you. I was that like out for the count." And we were like at 20,000 feet before I was like, "Oh my God, I need to get my act together." But yeah, it was that. I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's
it is
reasonably comfortable seat. The only thing that bothers me is this new white company bed linen. It's so faffy because there's like a cover you put on the seat, and then there's a thin blanket, and then there's a blanket over that, and it's like, oh my God, there's so many bits and pieces. Just give me a flippin' duvet and let me be done with it.
Yeah, over engineering, right?
It was. I think it was trying to be a little bit too fancy, and it was just more problems than it was worth, quite frankly.
How was the transfer at Joburg?
Yeah, again, really, really easy.
Did you have to transfer? I mean, I've never been to Joburg. Did you have to transfer from an international to a domestic thing, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Was it easy? Or?
Yeah, it was. It was very easy. You go through immigration, and I think if you had bags, you would collect them because I was not going on a BA affiliate or anything like that. And it gave me a chance to kind of stretch my legs and get over to the other area where there was a lounge, but I didn't end up using it. There was just a nice airy terminal to stretch my legs, having been on a plane basically to the other end of the planet. I went from Terminal A to Terminal B, and it was easy. It was nice airy terminal, decent food options. I'm sure that those of you that pass through Joburg frequently are probably going, what the hell is he talking about? But for a first-time visitor, it really was fine. It was more than adequate.
And because that's for me the bit that I really want to know, because I know the name of the airline, but to go to George, what's the name of the airport actually?
I have no idea what the name of the airport is. I went on Kulula, which...
So what is Kulula? I mean, when you said Kulula, I'm like, is he talking about a drink?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think the name of the airline is Kulula.com. But everybody just calls it Kulula. It's a low-cost carrier that's owned by Comair, which in turn is a regional affiliate of BA. So it was very weird to see 737-800 BA colors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But Kulula, I think they've been around for about 20 years, and they're kind of the easy jet of South Africa.
Oh, I see.
But they also have this airline, SAF Air, which our friend Kobus is a big fan of. Kulula the people on the ground were very friendly. The boarding process was very sensible. That you can buy this thing called the Q Jump, and that allows you to just get ahead. It's like speedy boarding on EasyJet.
Yeah.
But other than that, you line up against the wall to the gate, and then you're boarded very promptly. The plane was like maybe 5 years old, 737-800. It felt very tired on the interior, but fine for an hour and a half to George. The service was not brilliant. I mean, they were just going through the motions, and I get it, on a turn like that.
Yeah.
It was a pay, you buy snacks and drinks and all of that. I wasn't hungry. I had something on the ground. Weirdly, in South Africa, and I don't know if this is a Kulula policy, I'd be very interested to hear from anybody else, Kobus and Rich, if you're listening, or anybody else in South Africa. I was told unequivocally to take my headphones off as part of the landing checks. Twice.
Your own headphones?
They were my own headphones, yeah.
Big over-the-ear ones?
Well, I experimented. So initially, yes, and then I used my AirPods. Same deal. Take them out. And from a safety perspective, I thought, I can kind of see that, but not taking my headphones off was the same level of infraction as having my seat reclined or my tray table down. It was just not going to be excused.
I've seen that only in Japan, I think. When I was flying, I know Starflyer did that, but probably JAL domestic, they were insisting on me removing my headphones. And I complied, whatever, but it's true that I've not seen that anywhere else. Yeah. I understand why. Maybe you need to be completely in focus for in case anything happens, but it's not something that I've seen a lot of airlines actually ask you to do.
No, and it was on both flights, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, they got me there safely. It was a very interesting and beautiful flight over South Africa. George is right on the ocean there on the Garden route, so you have a beautiful approach into what is a small but functional airport. I think it's quite a popular airport because it's very, very easy. You land on the tarmac, you taxi up and park on the tarmac, and then you walk across the tarmac. to this very small terminal, I think with one baggage carousel. But it's lovely walking across the terminal.
So they're not doing like Innsbruck. They're not providing you a
No.
bus for
God, no. And actually, Georgia Airport is home to a big Chinese flight training facility.
Oh.
I think Beijing or Spring Air or one of those Chinese airlines have their Ab Initio training base where the pilots go for 12 months from zero to commercial license and instructor. So it was neat to see that. And the only clue I had to that was we taxied past a building that was a flight school, but then everything was also written in Chinese. And so I did a little digging and found that out.
How was the seat in Kulula, the leg room and everything? Did you have like
nothing to write home about, but it was more than comfortable. No Wi-Fi, no IFE, nothing like that. I think there's Mango, which is South African Airways low-cost carriers, their big competitor, and there's other airlines, Safair, neither of whom I've experienced, but it seemed fine. I wouldn't go out of my way to fly them again, but I don't think you have a huge amount of options between those guys. The three.
Yeah, I was about to say the reason you chose them was because it was good for the timing, and that's pretty much it.
It was good for the timing. Somebody else booked it for me.
Oh, I see.
But I mean, looking at the schedule, there wasn't a huge amount of service there. So there's Mango, Kulula, Safair, and then Airlink, which is a South African Airways regional carrier. And Semair, which I think is either cargo or charter. I'm not sure. But yeah, George is growing like crazy as an airport. They have about 1 million passengers a year, up from like about half that 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, it was cool. Very cool.
And did you since it's you said affiliate for BA, did you get any miles for that, or are you not sure yet?
I think I will get Avios. I don't know if I'll get tier points.
Okay, well, there's that.
Yeah,
why not?
Better than nothing.
And on the way back, so you took the same. Was it as easy to transfer at Joburg, and how was the flight back to London? Same situation?
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned the same crew, obviously same flight.
Well, interestingly, I learned a valuable lesson at George Airport because it is small. And I thought, well, there's not going to be a lounge here because it's microscopic. And I went and had, you know what I had? I went to Wimpy, which I haven't been to because generally it's terrible. But they were so sweet there, and I just had a cup of coffee, but they had full tarmac views and Wi-Fi and all that stuff.
Nice.
But then, of course, as I go through security, there's a flippin' lounge. And it was, I'm actually glad I didn't spend too much time in there because it was small and not brilliant. And you walk through onto the tarmac and onto the plane. Yeah, Joburg was fine again, very easy. And you actually come through a separate security screening when you're transiting. For those of you that have been through security in the main Joburg International Terminal know that it can be a little bit of a cluster. But this I was only the person in the queue for this other side. It was great.
You're a VIP, basically.
Well, no, I think everybody was.
I know.
There was hardly anybody there. It was great. But the BA lounge is closed for 6 months.
Oh.
And so they're using this. It's quite complicated because first class passengers get to use this lounge. I can't remember the name of it, but apparently it's absolutely outstanding. You can't get in with any of the like priority pass or anything like that. And you can't get in even if you're gold. It's just for BA first class.
Wow.
The lounge that I was able to go in through being BA gold or business class was one that Singapore Airlines used and a few Emirates, I believe. And it was very crowded because of BA. And also Singapore Airlines, their flight was like 9 hours delayed and ended up being canceled.
Ouch.
So it was absolutely rammed. But Joburg Airport they've gone through this massive renovation. It's really not so bad anymore.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
And so you were welcome like a hero.
I got on the flight. I think I was the first person to board. And all of them looked at me like, oh my God, welcome back. What? And then they looked at me like, wait, you're mental. Why don't you come all this way just for a day? But then, of course, I was like one of the family, and it was inside jokes and banter. And actually, I had a fascinating conversation with the same flight attendant who looked after me on the way down about how they're rostering, because they are mixed fleet. So she worked the 787-8, but not the 9, or maybe the other way around. Either way, she only worked one style, the A380 and A319s and 20s, which I thought was really interesting. So she was all over the place and was going to San Jose for the first time. So we were trading notes about that. But it was just a really interesting insight about how they're rostered and how they're scheduled and the types of airplane that they fly. But again, a very, very strong service on BA. Interestingly, on all of my BA legs recently, down to Geneva and on these Joburg, I was never greeted by name. No one ever came up to me and said anything. And thinking back on it, it only seems to happen when I'm not in business.
I flew BA a few times as well, short haul only. In general, I don't need to be singled out and hello, welcome back. That's so nice of you. It didn't happen, and twice I was in business class.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, no, I think it only happens when you're not in business, or that's what I've experienced. I have an economy flight coming up, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, maybe you actually stand out where you're in economy.
I think that might be what it is. That might be what it is. But yeah, nothing. Yeah. I mean, the business class cabins on the A380s are so huge.
Yeah.
That I can kind of understand.
They would spend like half of the flight just greeting passengers because everybody has gold or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We'll do the transfer at Heathrow because you actually had to transfer at Heathrow after. Let's take a little break for a few news and then we'll go back to the rest of your flight. Since we're in BA, that new pricing for seats, man, what the hell?
Yeah, BA have introduced this extraordinary price hike for picking your seat if you don't have status. It's a lot of money.
So it's aircraft dependent, meaning that, so it's seat dependent and aircraft dependent. So if you're traveling business class, these are the examples I found. I didn't find any examples for first class because these are not actually rolled out. They were just announced. If you are flying a 380, like Alex just did, and you want a window seat, so A, or I don't remember, was K, what is the other side? You pay more than if you have these AL seats, but on the sides of where the windows are. And of course, the price is even less if you're on the center seats. But the AL seats of the center, the four center seats is 242, are also more expensive. Basically, if you don't pay, you're going to get allocated by chance. And chances are, obviously, you will be put right in the middle, the seats that nobody actually wants. Yeah. But the thing when I say it's aircraft dependent is that the pricing is not the same on an A380 that it is on a 747, that it is on a Dreamliner. You have multiple pricing, and also depending of how in front of the aircraft you are. So literally every seat has a different price. If you want to be really, really like row, let's call it one, if there's no first class, it will be more expensive than if you're in the back of the plane. Interestingly as well, they have not announced, they have said they will create another special set of pricing for upper deck 747. They don't say how much that will be yet. My guess is that will be very expensive. One thing that they haven't said, and that is to me the most, because we both are gold on BA, they haven't said how does it work, because as gold, you can pre-select your seat, not pay much in advance. If you're a silver, you have I think a lesser window. If you're bronze, a much lesser window. And if you have nothing, you just either pay or wait for your seat to be allocated. They do not say if there will be a differentiation for people like you and me having status compared to people who don't. But I think that overall, you already pay so much for business class. Yeah. Why the hell would you augment that? Just hike the price. It's a fake hike price, basically. Just they don't want to augment the fair price. So they just ask you, because, yeah, I should have said that. The prices of these seats, some of them are really, there was an example on a 380, I think. Now I don't have it in front of me. Some of the seats were $150 per seat. We're not talking $10, guys, right?
No, it's a staggering amount of money. And I think, as you say, that's the slap in the face, is that you've already paid a ton of money for business class. To be asked to pay more to select your seat further than 24, 48 hours out is just obscene.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm kind of amazed that they haven't had more backlash about this. I know that there was some angry blog posts from some pretty influential people, but maybe because it hasn't rolled out and we haven't heard reaction from the flying public yet, but it's just ridiculous.
We'll probably both experience that when these changes are rolled out, and we'll see what happens with our status. It will trigger. But overall, I think that I'm always, and that's the same for Swiss when you took it for the throne seat. I understand why they would, have the throne seat more expensive, but I think that when you pay already, I mean, we don't always pay ourselves. We have clients, but let's say you pay, let's say £2,000, £4,000, whatever. Then they ask you $200 more for a seat. You're like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
It feels like nickel and diming, which
Yeah.
is unfortunately becoming BA's MO.
Yeah.
One thing I should add about before I forget it, on my BA flight up from Joburg is that I had Wi-Fi.
Cool.
And it was very reasonably priced, very fast, very easy to use. It was really good.
Was it like a limited amount of megabytes?
Nope,
or
it was
not?
fair use.
That's how it should be, man.
Yeah, it was fair use, and you could pick 2 speed tiers. And I had it on my flight up from Geneva. Again, it was really easy. It was really easy to use. They don't shout about it. They don't make any announcements. There's no little insert in the seat pocket. It's just there. I was impressed. It worked really well.
Yeah, I had a short haul as well with Wi-Fi, and you're right. There was no inserts. Yeah, I didn't realize that. You're right. It's just there. Is it because it's just waiting for it to be rolled out
I
to
think
print
so.
the things, but they don't, like you said, they don't even announce it. Usually airlines will say there's Wi-Fi provided on this flight, la la la, and will be set up when we reach 10,000 feet or something. They don't even say it.
Nope.
You're right. You're right. But it works. It does work.
Yeah.
I know that for some people, especially living in the US, we're talking about Wi-Fi like, where are you guys? Are you doing 1945 talking about Wi-Fi? Because, but yeah, for us, it's actually something. British Airways has also announced and then seemingly backtracked and then said they never actually announced it. These flights, they wanted to mark their 100th anniversary. We all know that they're going through this because you've been hearing us, guys, by flying 747s from London to Manchester, Newcastle, and Glasgow, basically flying these big birds for 20 minutes. A lot of anger from environmentalists saying that this is crazy. Why would you do this? And then basically BA said, we actually never announced it and we're not planning to do it. But yeah. Yeah. Still, people bought, I think the tickets were 400 quid, 400 pounds return, and all these flights were obviously full. So now I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I get both sides. I mean, of course, flying, especially these 747s, were not the most environmentally friendly planes for 20 minutes is maybe not. At the same time, I also get that, it's a 100th anniversary. These are special flights. It's just 1 or 2 flights. I don't know where. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of brouhaha for nothing in the end because they're not going to do that.
It was really fun how they seemingly had announced it and then they basically, no, but we never did actually.
Yeah.
These were rumors that you guys thought, yeah, but then why everybody bought flight? Yeah, anyway. United, because we're going to go in the US with Alex in a few, United is demonstrating, since we're talking about reducing the carbon footprint of aircraft, and we know we both are guilty of not saving the planet, Alex and myself, by flying that much.
Yeah.
So jet fuel accounts for 99% of the carbon footprint of a flight, right? I mean, all the rest that airlines are doing, which is great, removing single-use plastics and, all the rest is, at the end of the day, minimal compared to the jet fuel. So we mentioned it years ago, the use of biofuels, and United has done one flight where they mixed biofuels. By the way, I don't think aircrafts can fully fly on biofuel yet. You still have to mix it with jet fuel, but they were able to reduce carbon emissions by 60%. So it's not bad, actually.
That's pretty extraordinary, really.
Yeah, exactly, right? And of course, during that flight, it happened on June 5th, the tray and everything was recyclable and compostable tableware. There was no single-use plastics. The one thing they did, they wanted to switch to reusable silverware that we have in business class sometimes. But they calculated that because it is heavier, it actually uses more fuel to use reusable silverware, and the carbon emission would be much worse by having more weight in the plane compared to using.
That's interesting.
It's sometimes the little details actually do matter. Anyway, the one thing that they've also done, which is not possible yet at scale, is having the pilots use every possible technique to optimize efficiency. I mean, we know that it's possible, and pilots know how to do it. It's just that because of air traffic management, you cannot always, navigate your way out of the said route to avoid, for instance, winds or weather, or for instance, one of the things that apparently is very good for reducing the amount of carbon emission is to go to cruising altitudes more slowly. You take a long time to get there instead of just pushing to reach the 35,000 feet. So they did that on that flight, but they know it's as long as air traffic management is modernized, this won't be possible. But it's interesting that they tried.
Yeah. I'm all for this type of experimentation because it's very easy to dismiss this stuff as kind of PR.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either. I think that there's value here, both environmentally and, as you say, they're identifying all of these cost-cutting issues that perhaps they wouldn't have uncovered had they not gone through this process in the first place.
Absolutely. And since we're on this, you probably have seen this because it was quite striking. Air France and KLM are going to fund the development of a new type of aircraft. First of all, it's very strange because usually airlines do not themselves fund aircrafts. It's Boeing or Airbus or someone, but not the actual airlines. It's the Flying V. Have you seen this thing? It looks like these military aircraft, like a Delta. Because it's a V, which is empty in the middle, you'll be either on one side of the V or the other side. It's literally a V, like the letter. And they say we'll go for 20% cost savings into fuel, which obviously would be an incredible competitive advantage as well, because if you use less fuel, well, suddenly you can reduce the price of the seats, and then suddenly you crush the competition. And that's compared to modern aircraft, the 787 and 350. I'm just really baffled that airlines, it's one airline, Air France KLM, would actually go and put money in. Have you ever heard of an airline actually trying to create their own aircraft?
No, of course, airlines are very influential in the development process of new airliners through the manufacturer by, giving their input. And the 747 arguably was created for Pan Am.
Yeah.
I've never heard of an airline going and creating their own often creating their own airline with themselves, especially for Air France KLM, who don't have a whole bunch of money at the moment.
Yeah.
This feels like something that Emirates would do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the scaled down prototype will be ready by October, so we're not talking about something very far in the future. That doesn't mean, obviously, that this aircraft will see the light of day for us, you and me, flying. Guys, look it up. Flying V. It looks cool.
It does
Honestly,
look cool.
The one thing that you and me will have more of a problem is that which window do we choose?
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you're one side of the V, I don't see a way to transfer to the other side of the V, so you have to be very careful.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I'm excited to see this prototype.
Same. So let's continue with your travel. So you back at Heathrow and you have to transfer at Heathrow. We often have people telling us, listeners telling us that transferring at Heathrow is really not great. This is why they do not like Heathrow. How was your experience transferring at Heathrow?
It was one of the better experiences I've had because intra-terminal is easy, especially at T5. And to a lesser extent the other terminals. But I was going from T5 to T3 because I was going across the Atlantic on American. And you have this process where you go down stairs at T5 to tarmac level instead of turning left with all of the other transferees and people arriving in the UK. And if you're flying on American Airlines, you go through this pre-screening process where they actually ask you similar questions as they do when you're leaving Tel Aviv. Why are you going to? And I'm an American, so I was using my American passport. So they asked, why was I going, and why was I in South Africa, and all of that. It was all very friendly and pretty cursory. But then they put a sticker on the back for this security screening, and you crack on.
Were these two separate tickets?
No,
George thing.
They were. Joburg. The internal South African flights were separate tickets, but Joburg, London, JFK was on one ticket.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No,
that's quite the ticket, actually. That's quite the P&R right there.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And I didn't have my boarding pass. I can't remember why I didn't have it, but I didn't have a boarding pass, so they took care of that very easily. But
meaning, so you flew the entire trip with your American passport then?
No, you can switch passports. Doesn't
they
matter.
Do accept
that?
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, then you board this bus and it takes you through the bowels of Heathrow, under runways and taxiways, and spits you out at Terminal 3, where you then go through a secondary security screening, like you just full security. And it was at that point when I pulled out my iPad and realized that I had left my laptop on the airplane. I have never, ever left anything on an airplane before. I'll tell you exactly where I left it, and I'm very sure that you know already where I left it. In the BA business class seat, there is this drawer at your feet.
Yeah.
And Usually it's where I put everything, because when you're in the aisle, there's basically no other storage except for the overhead bin. But when you're in the window, you've got the side, on the upper deck, you've got the side storage lockers like you would on the upper deck of a 747. So I stuffed all my stuff in there except for my laptop, like an idiot. And the guy at security, he could tell the look on my face. He's like, "You've lost something, haven't you?" I was like, "Yeah, my laptop." I was like, "Well, how long do you have to your next flight?" I said, 3 hours and 45 minutes, but it's on a remote stand, which I'll come to in a second. And he's like, "You should be okay, but go to the desks." BA and American both have desks just past security. And I went to them and I explained the situation, and they said, because I knew where it was in the airplane, they said, "Well, look, we'll call them up. It's going to be a while because the drivers haven't come on duty yet." We landed at like 4:50 a.m.
Oh, yeah,
we were
of course.
the first flight to land. And he's like, "Just have a seat over there," took my information, took my details, and said, "As soon as I hear anything, I'll let you know." I said, "Is it okay if I go grab some food?" He said, yeah, it's going to be a while. So I went to the Cathay Lounge. I was steaming at this point. I was so angry at myself because
you sent me. I remember you were sending me messages, and it was like you not taking your laptop.
I was so pissed off at myself. But the American flight I was going on was on a remote stand, which was weird. I'd never experienced, especially for long haul. So they wanted you at the gate about an hour and a half before the flight was due to depart. So I'm looking at my clock going, I don't have high hopes about this because it's BA and it's Heathrow. But I went to the Cathay Lounge, had an angry shower and some angry breakfast, and then went back. And as I walked up to the desk, somebody appeared with my laptop.
Oh, nice.
And it can't have been more than 45 minutes. And he also had my glasses case as well, which I had left in there. So I would have been double boned. But he's like, "What kind of laptop is it?" He was kind of holding it behind his back. I said, "It's what it was." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "Oh, my glasses." And he's like, "What kind of glasses are they?" And I described the glasses, and he said, "Yeah." And then he wouldn't let me take the laptop until I opened it up and logged into it.
Yeah, to show that actually,
which I appreciated. I thought that was really good. So thank you a million to the BA staff at Heathrow for doing that in a very short period of time. I was really impressed by that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a beginning of your trip to the US.
Stupid. Yeah. So I won't be doing that anytime soon.
Yeah, lesson learned. So how was AA?
Good. Yeah. So I was on a 777-200 ER, which is business. I can't remember if they have premium economy, but there's no first class. So I was in 2K in the business seat. And it's a really, really good business class seat. Very, very good, comfortable seat. Much like Cathay's, except a much bigger screen. I think it's a very, very comfortable seat. I just was really, really impressed with it. And the service and the food was efficient, not overly friendly, but with a smile. The food was really good. You get the ice cream sundae, which is just fantastic. Live TV, although the live TV and the Wi-Fi were not working on the flight because I guess there was some big satellite issue going on that day, and so not only the internet was not working, but neither was the 6 or 7 channels of satellite TV they have. But I really like that product. It's one of my favorite business class products outside of the Middle East, and the flight was like 7 hours, something like that. But just a really impressive product all the way around. I really like it, and I would absolutely pick that over BA's current business class product at every opportunity.
So whilst Alex was just saying that, his eyes were rolling. When he said BA's current business class product, I was looking at the camera and his eyes were actually rolling.
Well, I said, I it's not that bad. Obviously, I had two good sectors down to and from Joburg, but this is just better. It's private. It's comfortable. You've got so much storage. They give you B&O noise canceling headphones as standard. So it was a good experience. Interestingly, Greg Barnes, who films Attaché with me, he was coming in on Norwegian. He was literally the flight that landed behind me at JFK. And we both noted it was really turbulent from about 20,000 feet down. I think it was perhaps heat. I don't know if it was wind. I'm not sure what it was, but it was the fun kind of turbulence. It was really rather, I like that kind of stuff. And so, coming into JFK, into what is I think almost exclusively a terminal just for American Airlines. I was through immigration in 90 seconds, thanks to those wonderful machines, and then into the phenomenal American flagship lounge at JFK. Those lounges are so damn good. So good.
I've never had a chance to experience them. I need to try them. I mean, I'm not going to the US until the fall, but I'm actively looking at AA because listening to you, Alex, now I'm pretty convinced by proxy. I need to fly.
I think you'll be impressed. I'm really impressed with those guys. The flagship lounges at JFK. They had a flagship lounge, which the entry requirements for their lounges are a little bit confounding to me, but because I'm One World Emerald, I was able to go straight in. Great views. Blazing fast Wi-Fi, quiet zones, really good food and drink. They should be very proud of those lounges because they have long rows of desks where people can help you with any flight issues. And of course, being America, you have to go through immigration and come back in. But it was super quiet for me, and I was in the lounge in no time and had a couple 3 hours to really enjoy it. So yeah, it's a good experience.
And I'm waiting for the next one.
Weirdly, getting from New York to Toronto, from JFK to Toronto, you'd think there would be more service, but it's Delta, Air Canada, and American, all on regional jet services. If it was me and I was doing it again, I would have flown into Newark so I could fly on Porter, who are excellent, but I couldn't. So I flew on American. It was an Embraer 140 at a remote gate at JFK. Pardon me, it was a jet bridge. It was a remote gate at JFK. And I had my Travel Pro carry-on as well as my backpack. And they do this thing called valet service where you just, at the gate, you check it and you put it on this cart right before you get on the airplane. And when you get off, it's there waiting for you. So it's not like checking a bag. It's just so you don't bring it on board. As I was walking onto the airplane, I looked down the side because it was not a sealed jet bridge. And this airplane was in such bad aesthetic condition. I have never, ever flown on a plane in such bad condition aesthetically. The paint wasn't just faded. It was chipped down to the metal. Like you could see the bare aluminium of the plane in multiple places. And I'm talking, laptop-sized chunks of paint missing.
God.
The regional jet logo was completely faded. It was unbelievable, quite frankly. I've never, in all of my travels, seen or been on an airplane in such bad condition on the outside. And when I got on board, the seats actually looked pretty new. The plane itself was 17 and a half years old, which is neither here nor there. That's kind of middle-aged.
It's okay, yeah.
The seat themselves were fine. But I was sitting in the exit row in row 11, and the handles for the emergency exit were all coming out. Taxiing, it had a suspension of a New York taxi cab. You're feeling every bump and jostle. There's a sole flight attendant, and weirdly so it's 1-2 configuration, and I was in the 1. The 2 other seats were empty, and she's like, she was joking with me, and she was kind of 175 years old and had clearly been doing this her whole professional life and just didn't really want to be there. But she took an instant shine to me and gave me snacks and all this stuff for free. But yeah, the flight itself was completely uneventful and very easy. And you get off in Toronto at this weird concertinaed jet bridge, but it's almost like a folded down crane. It's not connected to anything, and it's not stairs. It's like this ramp, which actually makes a lot of sense if you need to take a wheelchair on it, and you grab your bag. But then I glanced back, and the whole of the airplane was as in crappy condition as the rest of it. All the paint was peeling from the nose and all of that. It was an Envoy Airlines, which is a third-party airline that American and other airlines use, but holy crap.
Because you sent me the picture, guys, and I was like, what's going on right there? And then you added, it's Envoy Air on behalf of American Eagle on behalf of American or something like that. I stopped listening halfway through.
Yeah, because I posted it as an Instagram story and got so many messages from people saying, that's obviously in a museum or in a boneyard somewhere, right? And so I posted a full picture on Instagram going, to answer all your questions, no, it's not. It's a real airplane. I just flew on it and I'm fine.
Did you look at the history of the aircraft?
It's always been owned by either American Eagle or Envoy. I was curious to know the cycles. I don't know actually how you can find that information, but that plane has been working hard for a long time. Long time. Gee, wow.
So, and you landed with at YYZ or
at Toronto? At YYZ, at Toronto Pearson, and you go. Every time I've flown into Canada in the last 3 or 4 years, the immigration experience has been horrendous, and this was the worst I have ever had in my life. There must have been there were well over 1,000 people in the queue, and the way that they have the immigration hall lined up is they've done what the U.S. has done, where you have these machines that do the pre-screening. You fill in a bunch of question and answers, and it spits out this little document which you then go and take to a immigration official, and they glance at it and ask you more questions or send you for secondary screening. The queue was so big that everything was just a mess of people, and you couldn't tell where the queue for the kiosks started and finished and where the queue for the secondary screening came in. It took about nearly 2 hours to get through. And by this point, they were just waving people through. They just,
go.
Where are you coming from? Blah, blah, blah. Go, 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 go. It was horrendous. My brother flew in from San Francisco the following day on a red eye, and there was no one in the immigration hall.
So maybe unlucky timing.
So we'd arrived with several other international flights, but it's still inexcusable. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's time management. They know where the aircrafts are landing.
Exactly.
You just add more
a lot of the machines were failing, and it was so badly managed. It was not good at all.
So we'll do the actual airport at the end of the show, obviously. How did you fly back? Was it the same Envoy, American Eagle, AA something back, and then
it was
BA or AA?
It was in a slightly better condition.
Okay.
However, in 2012, it had its tail knocked off by an EVA Air 747 in Chicago, which was interesting.
How did you know that?
I searched the tail number just to see how old this one was. And, of course, the first result that came up was this article about this collision at which we started the podcast after this. But, in 2012, it had a pretty significant collision. It wasn't written off. It was repaired, and it was fine. I was sat next to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel star David Boreanaz, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Who
such a VIP.
He was sat in row 11 with me, quiet. He was with his kid, so I didn't bother him. But seemed nice enough.
I listened to his podcast, and he was talking about this chap that seemed nice enough that's presenting, attaché and doing a podcast on aviation. So probably, he felt the same about you.
My wife was teasing me, saying he was probably begging me to ask what the most efficient way to get into town from JFK was. Cheapest, fastest, best, and all that. So I turned off my phone after that. But
I'll be your Sherpa.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think he was going to the Raptors game in Toronto. But the cool thing was when you come into the U.S. from Canada, you do immigration in Canada, U.S. immigration in Canada. So you're spat out into a domestic terminal in the U.S., which didn't matter because I was transiting to a international flight. But I didn't have to go through security on this side, actually, which was kind of cool. I think I can't even remember. But then back to the same lounge. Unfortunately, I had 6 hours in JFK, which was kind of boring. But there we are. And then American premium economy on the way back, which was just a very good service. I slept the whole way. I was asleep by 10,000 feet and woke up right before we landed. So there was very little to report on that flight.
Yeah, because I think I used that joke already, probably 2 years ago. Because as a baby, you slept in an airplane. So as soon as you step into an airplane, Alex, you sleep. I mean, twice in this. Yeah,
it was a short flight, 6 hours and 16 minutes. So that was fine. That was fine. But I was amazed actually because there was 4 American Airlines flights to London in the afternoon and evening, and I think at least 3 British Airways ones. And I was trying to get on an earlier flight. They were all absolutely full in every single class. All of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That proves how successful their route is.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was quite an eventful journey. I mean, and what's the name of it? Kulula? What's the name of the
Kulula,
airline?
yeah.
Kulula.
I wouldn't go out of your way to fly on them.
So I'll go to my own flights in a minute. It's really Alex and Paul talking about their flights this episode. But a few news first, and we forgot to mention that we are recording Monday, June 10th. 2019, and I'll aim at releasing this very, very quickly because we're already over 2 weeks since the last one. But as you understood, guys, we're traveling quite a bit more these days, and it's a bit harder. But I'll try to have that ready by tomorrow, the 11th. So since we're in the US, Justin Rhodes on Facebook, you remember I talked about Amsterdam transferring from paper to digital last time I flew there. It's still the case now. There are still some slots delays at Amsterdam because I was just there 2 days ago. And Justin tells us about US airports. He says none of the US airports use electronic flight strips. They still use old paper ones. Wow. But he adds that the en route facilities use electronic.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's creatively called the En Route Decision Support Tool, EDST. Thank you, Justin. I had no idea. So now the next question is, will they actually ever move to digital? Probably at some point. Would make sense. Yeah, it would make sense. Since you were in New York, we talked 2 episodes in a row about Blade, that helicopter service that you can take from JFK to Hudson Yards. Well, Uber just announced its own service. They have Uber Copter coming in to New York from JFK as well. It will launch on July 9th. For the moment, so I use Uber a lot, but I didn't realize that you had tiers in Uber. And apparently you can be a Uber Platinum, Uber Diamond. These guys will have access from the get-go to the Uber Copter service. If you're not either, and I don't think I'm either because I've never signed into a rewards by Uber, you will have to wait, but they will expand it to everyone. And that will cost you, it will be, of course, priced, like Uber does, depending on the time of day, around $200. So there you go. You have another.
That's comparably priced, to Blade. I'm very excited about this. Just for those of you that have traveled between JFK and New York or Manhattan, you know how absolutely horrendous it is. So this is wonderful that this is happening. It seems there are some environmental questions, but maybe someone who knows a little bit more about helicopters than I do can assuage my guilt.
Yeah. We started this show by talking about the 220. Mitsubishi, we talked about Mitsubishi quite a lot, is in advanced discussion to acquire the entire CRJ program from Bombardier. Basically, here, Bombardier is being stripped down to pieces because everybody's buying a little bit of it. So, it could be that Mitsubishi goes for Bombardier and CRJ would be Japanese. Interesting.
Yeah, Bombardier have said very clearly that they want to get completely out of the commercial aircraft game and just go with executive aircraft. So this is very interesting. I don't know what that means for the MRJ program, whether it just becomes another product in that suite and what they'll call it. But it does mean that they're going to bring back the de Havilland name, which is very exciting to me.
Yeah, because that's another company who bought the Dash 8, because Mitsubishi wants to buy the CRJ part of Bombardier, and some other companies buying the Dash 8 aircraft program by Bombardier. I think it's Longview Aviation Capital Corporation.
They
probably a private equity, I guess, or something. So instead of keeping the name Dash 8, the Q series, they want to revert to the Havilland, which is a great brand. They will be called, I don't know, the Havilland Dash 8, the Havilland
cool.
Q. I don't know. Cool. The CRJ, actually, interestingly, I didn't realize that, but that was their first program, I think, back in the 80s when they acquired Canadair. From the Canadair, they created CRJ. I think something like that.
That sounds about right.
Something like that. On the Mitsubishi's part, they're still overhauling the entire program of their own jet. We're still waiting for it. But they've already decided that they will rebrand it. The new name of Mitsubishi's jet will be Space Jet.
That's very Japanese, isn't it?
I saw Alex's face react to that.
Very Japanese.
Yeah, it's very the Space Jet. But they are really putting all their resources into going into the smaller version of it, the version that could actually accommodate the scarp closes and etc. in the US, because that's where they want to head for. So we'll have both the Space Jet by MRJ and the CRJ by MRJ, or the CRJ by MRJ. Actually, I didn't realize they were so close to each other. And the de Havilland by Longview, and Embraer, since you flew on one that had its paint completely chipped off, the name could be disappearing faster than we think.
Certainly for a commercial aircraft, yeah. What Airbus did to Bombardier.
Boeing, as part of the acquisition of Embraer commercial aviation arm, this arm is no longer called Embraer. The name has disappeared. It's still unclear when and if, but probably it's a when, they will change the actual name of the aircrafts themselves. Currently, it's Embraer 190.
Yeah.
If the company itself is not called Embraer, I don't think it will be that long until it's called something 190, probably.
Yeah, I think they're going to... It's interesting, actually, because Boeing used the number system as well, but the one, I don't know, B190, is that what it's going to be?
And
the B-Jet?
The B-Jet. Yeah, maybe. Actually, maybe they go to a slightly different numbering system for that. I don't know, actually. Maybe 4 numbers, 7190?
719. Oh, yeah, very possible.
Maybe. I don't know. So, what did I fly? I flew a lot, guys, and I flew very interesting airlines. One that will come is EVA Air, but I'll come in a little bit.
Yeah.
You're all expecting it, right? I first flew through to Sofia in Bulgaria from London. Sofia is always a great airport because you have all these old aircrafts on the airfield, the Soviet Union aircrafts are laying around there. So nothing to write home about because I flew BA. It was a 321. It was not a 321 Neo, but it's a 321 with a new seat density. How I learned that is because, as you guys know, Alex and me are very anal about which seat we're going to choose in a flight. And the flight was almost completely full. And I was like going, wow, which seat should I choose in the remaining ones on the seat map? And when I went to both Seat Guru and this other Seat Something online, none of the seat maps I was getting were mapping the one I had of BA. And I was like, what's going on here? So the exit row on seat map was 9 and 10, and the exit row on the BA website was 10 and 11. So I did a little bit of Googling, and as always, Flyer Talk had the answer. BA are densifying some of their aircrafts, adding more seats, so reducing the leg room. So that's why suddenly, even in business class, you have less leg room. It goes to say that you should try to get the front row or the emergency exits even more than before, if you're tall like me. I got what is now called 10. On the 321, it's the second emergency exit. There's no seat in front of you.
Right.
Because it's a big door. So that's perfect. You feel like in business class. Yeah. One really fun thing is they've introduced e-passport gates to enter, but it feels like that they've hacked this with old Soviet Union pieces. Honestly, it's absolutely you look at them, you're like, did they find those in a scrapyard? And then you put your passport on it, and it seems like, there's a diesel engine starting off, and then there's some lights, and I was literally in that thing, in the gate for about, and I'm not kidding, 4 minutes until it cleared me.
What?
To the point, I was looking around, where is the person who is, there must be someone monitoring, because there's no way. He wasn't telling me, please try again, or please go to, normal immigration because your passport cannot be read or something. It just took forever. So guys, if you go to Sofia, maybe do not choose the e-gates. Chose them for novelty. I would have gone through the normal immigration and be done in 30 seconds. Really not a good experience, honestly. I learned something, however. You've been to Sofia. I don't know if a lot of our listeners go through Sofia. There's a VIP terminal. I think we mentioned it when we talked about Sofia Airport. But what I didn't know, you can pay 50 euros, which is nothing, and you have the full VIP service, meaning you have your own lounge and you have a car driving you to your aircraft.
I did not know that.
50 euros.
Wow. That would be kind of fun to do.
Exactly. And it could be you have your own immigration and everything. So pretty cool. So I had a few days in Sofia, and then I needed to be in Singapore. There's not a lot of options from Sofia, and I didn't want to go back to London. The good thing about flying from Sofia or a lot of Eastern European cities is that obviously you have often very good deals, and I found a very good one on Qatar. I was to fly a 320 to Doha, and then 350 from Doha to Singapore with the Q suite. And I'll get there in a second, my second time. First, I'm at Sofia Airport, and again, they hacked something. It's the same in many airports, not London, but an airport like Amsterdam, Alex. When you exit your plane, you are belched out where people actually enter. There's no separation between people inbound and outbound. You just choose your routing to exit the airport, but you are mixed with everyone.
Right.
So Sofia was like that. But for some reason, they decided they didn't want to do that anymore. So now what they did, they put like a simple, like you have like his live gigs, like a barrier in the middle of the of the terminal. So the only problem with that system is that half of the gates are off limits. So if you want to go to a gate which is odd numbered, you have to ask for someone to basically push the barrier aside, and it makes no sense whatsoever, guys. I mean,
that's the weirdest thing I've heard.
I mean, I was literally, I could see the gate, and I was walking. At some point, I should be able to, and I was like, man, I'm locked on the other side. And I, my first thing is like, did I do something wrong entering the airport? Yeah. And I'm going back, and I cannot find it. And then I ask a guy, he says, oh yeah, and he just opens me the thing in the middle of the airport. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the lounges situation is still bad at Sofia. Qatar Airways was telling me on their app, it's pretty well done. They tell you all the options of lounges you have at airports. In Sofia, and they had a choice of 2 lounges. I go to the one downstairs, which it's very strange to find because it's basically where you have customs, but there's a lounge right there because I know that it's bigger, there are less people. I arrive there and they say, nope, well, you cannot. This is not the Qatar lounge. The Qatar lounge is upstairs. And I show them the app. I'm like, yeah, but it says you have. He says, nope. And then I look, of course, they were priority pass. I'm like, in priority pass, yes, you can enter, sir. I'm like, this is just the kind of stuff. I mean, Sofia, you feel it's almost as if you have to kind of tip your way in.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And then they'll be happy to accept you anyway. So, one thing there, our friend Mike Butcher, Alex, is the editor-at-large of TechCrunch, and he was in the same lodge as me. He also had priority pass. He was not flying Qatar, was flying back to London with BA. But something very strange happened. I always assumed, and Alex, I'm sure you agree with me, I always assumed that if you miss the outbound plane, so the first leg of a return flight, you cannot take your
I was always
travel.
told that they would, in fact, BA told me this, that they would, if you missed the outbound, they would cancel the return.
Exactly. Well, Mr. Mike was supposed to be with me with BA to fly there, missed his flight, but they accepted his return. He was able to go to the airport, check in, and he was in the flight. I don't get it.
I don't get that either.
I'm like, I was literally saying, are you just lucky or literally puzzled?
Yeah. I've made some pretty substantial decisions based on that fact.
Me too. And he was
I wouldn't want to test it, though.
Literally every step of the way, I was with him in the cab, and he was checking in, and I was like, they won't allow him. And they allow him. I'm like, okay. So then we go to the airport, and we go to the dock check. For sure, now they're going to tell him, no, you're not supposed to be here. Well, he goes in. So, yeah, and he was able to take his flight. Oh, well, I learned something.
Yeah, well, now I want to dig into this more and understand how it works.
Yeah, me too. So I'm going to Qatar, and it's a 320. So the first thing I do, like every Airbus, and I know you do that as well, Alex, I look at the door to find the age of the aircraft. I'm the first one to enter the aircraft, and I see the 2 flight attendants, the 2 female flight attendants, looking completely puzzled at me, like, what are you doing, sir? And I started explaining them that it is, and they couldn't believe it. They never had heard that there was a plaque that tells you the age. So we literally talked about this for the first 10 minutes of the flight. They were like, really? Can you know the age of every aircraft? So not only on Airbuses. And they asked the pilot. The pilot confirmed, yeah, well, I know.
That's so really funny.
But that was really fantastic because he created this great atmosphere between me and that crew. And they even apologized because they said, oh, we're so sorry, sir. This Airbus is so old. I'm like, it's 8 years old.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's
so Qatar.
They've got some way older ones.
Have you ever flown? No, you've never flown Qatar, right?
Nope. So, somehow I have not.
They're business class, which is sometimes called first, doesn't really matter. The business class is 2-2 with, like very big lounge seats. And it's really nice. We were only 2 people out of 6 possible passengers. Very interestingly, they had on the seat map blocked, and I assumed they would be busy, but they had blocked row 1. And we were basically put directly, I was on 2A, and my fellow other passenger, whom I didn't know, was in 2 I guess, the other side. And then I asked, so can I go on row 1? Yeah, of course. There was more room for my feet. So I don't know why they do this, but they blocked it. It's not the first time it happened. The thing is, it was still Ramadan, the holy month for Muslims. And I know that Qatar as a country is clearly way more strict about that. That is Dubai. The UAE is strict, but Dubai is less strict. So I wasn't sure whether or not they would actually offer me champagne or any kind of drinks in the flight, and I didn't want to be either, impolite about this. I didn't want to be like, hey, well, where's my champagne or something? And she comes and she says, what would you like to drink? Like an open-ended question.
Right.
And I look at her and I say, what do you have? And she goes, yeah, water. And she doesn't mention champagne. So I go, I'll take the, apple juice or something. I took whatever. We're still on the ground at that point. I went online and actually I learned that Qatar Airways crew is told to not actively mention alcohol, but it's there. If you just say it during the month of Ramadan, if you say, I want rosé champagne, to take an example, they will deliver, but they're not actively telling you. They're not mentioning it in their speech during 1 month. It's very interesting.
That is interesting. It's a very sensible way of doing it.
I thought so too. They gave me still the wine lists, but never it was mentioned. But I mean, the rapport was really fantastic. Not exaggerating. These two ladies are probably the best short-haul crew I had in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Just, it was that good. I wanted to use the term endearing. Endearing kind of implies a little bit of condescension that, they're not that good, but they make it up. That's not true. They were really, really, really good. The service was absolutely fantastic. I don't know. It just works the way you'd expect. They never I was in row 1, so I was not supposed to have anything on the seat, in front of me, whatever. They're going to wait until the last minute, taking my little bag and putting it for me up. And then as soon as they're up again, they open the bin and they put it exactly where it was before. That kind of attention to detail. So yeah, honestly, they're really well trained.
How long was the flight?
4 hours and 30 minutes,
so
because we're still avoiding Saudi Arabia. Yeah, right. You could see on the moving map, right? We're going far north and then cutting down. I mean, it's fine because it's a very nice flight. There's IFE, but it's the IFE that rises up from the armrests. Very snappy. Again, 8 years old, but come on, it's fantastic to kind of... No, honestly, really... one of my best, should I said short haul experience, not because it's 4 hours, but, clearly it's a narrow body. Yeah, it's a narrow body. So I landed in Qatar, in Doha. I had on purpose chosen not to have too long of a layover. Guys, I'm going to sound like an alcoholic, but I'm like, not that I wanted to be drinking in Doha, but I'm saying it's the last day still in the holy month for the Muslim religion of Ramadan. So I'm like, I don't know how it's going to be, so I might as well make it quick. So I took a layover, which was only an hour and a half. So I said, I'll land, I run to the next gate, and I leave. Because I was like, maybe the experience will be too different, and I didn't want to experience it. Because it was either that or other 6 hours layover, which I could have done because my meetings in Singapore were late. So I could have done it and just enjoyed the Al Burkhan lounge. So I literally went to this lounge, which is the one I keep raving about, which is super fantastic. I stayed there for latte, 5 minutes, went to my next gate, and that was it. Obviously, I couldn't see if anyone was drinking. I'm pretty sure that actually the airport is dry during the month of Ramadan. I don't think there was anything different otherwise. Because, for instance, in Dubai, during the day, maybe you've experienced that, Alex. So the nighttime is a different take than the daytime, guys, if you don't know how Ramadan works. In Dubai, which is a pretty liberal city, you're not even supposed, out of courtesy, to hold bottles of water in front of other people.
Really?
That's what I mean here, but I didn't want to stay too long in Qatar because I want to be mindful for the locals, so rather just move on to the next aircraft. But no, it seems that the airport was working absolutely normally. There was no difference, so I was wrong. Probably dry, but other than that, it works absolutely perfectly. So nice experience. I move on. I got a notification on my phone that I'm going from a 350-1000 to a 350-900. In my head, I'm like, oh crap. First of all, I wanted to fly the 350-1000 because it's nice, but I assume that I'm going to go from crew suites to the old seats.
Yeah.
Old.
Yeah, you sent me a message saying how disappointed you were.
And when you go on their website or on their app, you have a 360 view of the seat. Immediately when I sent you that message, I went on the app and the cabin was the old one. And I'm like, disappointed. I wanted to fly the key suite. But no, it was a 1 month old 350-900. It had the keys.
Wow. So you got super lucky there.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Let me mention something. Sorry, I'm going in the wrong order. But we talk often that airports in the Middle East are super modern and very efficient, etc. I did all my trips without the paper boarding pass. Everything was on my phone. You go to the duty free at Doha Airport. And, they want to scan your boarding pass. They're unable to scan mobile boarding passes at duty free in Doha.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Guys, are you sure they had to enter my entire information on their keyboard?
That's weird.
And I just wanted to buy mints, by the way. I mean, I was like, really? So it took 5 minutes to buy mints. It's very strange, honestly. And they were like, don't you have your paper boarding pass? I'm like, no.
No, because
yeah, but
it's
you
2019.
Exactly. So be careful, guys. Back to my Q Suite. Estimated time flight, 7 hours and 47 minutes. How ironic, 747. You remember I flew the 777 Q Suite last year. It was my first Q Suite experience. This one is my second one. There are some differences. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels to me that the door is not as high on the 350 and that there's a gap, like US toilets, the gap at the bottom of 20 centimeters. Come on, it's nothing. But I think it was like a full door on the other one. And this one it doesn't really change the experience. I'm just saying there are some adaptations. Did they learn something from the previous model, or is it simply because the cabin of a 350 is different? I don't know. Also, the tray table is more sensible. It's just a little bit like ANA. It works really, really well. One thing I will say, because there's a door, and that comes back to the point we were talking about Virgin and BA introducing doors and half doors. I literally cannot remember any crew interaction almost at all.
Really?
Basically secluded the entire flight. I mean, they served me food. We had a little chat, but I was on my own. So maybe Virgin is right. The interaction with the crew kind of disappears completely.
Well, I mean, I guess in some instances that's preferred.
You're right, but it's strange because I left the aircraft and I thought I met this flight attendant twice and that was it. So it was like, oh, goodbye. And
wow.
I don't know. I'm not saying that is negative because you're right. In some instances, you want to be left alone, but it's true that it changes the dynamic and you literally see no one since everybody has a door. When you go to the bathroom, you have rows of doors and it's as if there's no one in the aircraft. It's a very strange feeling.
Wow. That is kind of weird. I mean, I like when you're watching a movie or you're eating or trying to relax, I like that. Yeah. But when you need something, of course, that's when you're like, where is everybody?
And by the way, just after takeoff, when your seatbelt sign is not off, but the crew is already standing, they come and they close the door. And I was like, why did you close the door? I mean, I didn't say it, but in my head, I was like, I don't need the door closed at this point. It's fine. But they do close the door. So they do close all the doors. Probably it's part of their policy, whatever. But it creates a very different type of interaction in the plane. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's very different. I don't seem to have met actually the crew. Whereas in other aircraft, you keep seeing them, you make sometimes eye contact or something. There was nothing like that. Great crew, however, but I literally saw her twice. That's where we met over Wi-Fi, right? You remember?
Right.
You were on the 380.
I was on the 380 coming back from Joburg.
And I was...
And you were somewhere between Qatar and Singapore.
Exactly. The Wi-Fi, also no limit, I think. And it was, my God, it was super freaking fast. I was going at download speed 30 and up probably 25.
Wow.
It was super fast. That's real Wi-Fi. That's
you can actually get full day's work done. BA's was nothing like that. That's impressive.
And they give you 1 hour for free, and then it's $10 for the entire flight, which is nothing.
Very reasonable.
They clearly, however, have a file on me. I mean, it's always this kind of balance between privacy and convenience because as they arrive and they give me a pajama, which is also made by the white company. I'm sure they have a group.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
group
what it is.
Discount or something.
Yeah.
BA. They give me a pajama, which was the size M, and no one that sees me because I'm tall, etc., would ever give me a size M on the first go. They have somewhere written down that the previous time somewhere I took a size M, so they have a file on me. The pajamas was great. I didn't keep them, but honestly, everything on this flight was great. I arrive at Singapore. Do you know which terminal you usually land at in Singapore? Do you remember?
3, although I can't remember, to be completely honest.
So I've done them all, but usually I arrive at T1, which is the oldest one. And I arrive there, the usual stuff. Singapore is so efficient. Yeah. And as soon as you go past the belts, the luggage belts, and at that point I'm like, what happened here? And what happened is the Jewel.
Yeah.
So actually the Jewel, I didn't realize, is integrated into T1.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that either.
T2 and T3, you can either walk or take their little SkyTrain. But T1 Jewel is literally there. You go out and then you are into the Jewel. It has changed that terminal completely. We're talking, it's like 9 a.m. and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go and see the Jewel. So I walk and I see, and there's a Tokyo Hands. Do you know what Tokyo Hands is?
Yeah, I have a bunch of Tokyo Hands. That's so cool. That's worth going in and of itself.
Guys, it's a Japanese
arts and crafts store, but so much more than that.
Exactly. It's fantastic. They have one there. So I walk and I really want to see that fountain we kept talking about. And I walk. In the center, there's that, that they call it the rain vortex. Insane. It's insane.
I mean,
seeing it live, you're like, how freaking gigantic this thing is. It's completely, you're like, are you crazy, guys?
They love it, don't they? I mean, they're so good at that.
I was lucky to go very early in the morning because it was still not full of people because, they really have platforms everywhere to take pictures, everything. The canopy, so the platform view, they have a platform that is very close. It's not open yet. It's on the 5th floor. It will open actually today, June 10th, actually, since we're recording June 10th. It opens today, as well as parts of the last floor, which is, mostly food.
Yeah.
But you have trees, man. It's a jungle. You have trees everywhere. It's just, these guys are insane. I mean, it's fantastic. It's actually a destination. It's actually something, if you're probably a Singaporean, you will go and spend your Sunday there instead of going to Sentosa. It's absolutely insane, man.
I cannot wait to experience this.
And there's one angle on the same perspective. You have tower. It's great, man. Wow. It looks, and the sky trains I just mentioned, which are the trains that go from terminal to terminal, they literally pass just next to that vortex, that waterfall, and they slow down when
just
they pass.
Oh, that's
exactly. Are you a Shake Shack fan?
I like Shake Shack, yeah.
At 10 a.m. when I was leaving after 1 hour wandering around. So the shops open at 10 a.m., most of them. 10 a.m., there was a queue of probably an hour in front of Shake Shack. I don't know, is that the first one they have in Singapore?
I think so, and it's good, but it's super not worth that.
Yeah, but the queue is like, am I in Japan where they open your stuff? I mean, what? But you know what? As an airport experience, you have early check-ins. If you're on your way out, you can go and you have dedicated check-ins when you can leave. You're not in the airport yet. You're just basically in the mall. It's very well done. It feels like a 5-star hotel. You can do your check-in there, leave your luggage, and walk around. You have luggage storage facilities. I left my luggage for free when I was walking and came back to pick it up and then leave to Singapore, the actual city. It's really made for an airport experience, either on your way in or you're on your way out. They make it super easy for you not to be encumbered with all your stuff. And you have screens that are, the usual display screens for flights, only that these are touch screens, and you can say, my flight is SQ something, and they give you immediately a map where to walk, what to do, how much time you have, where you could check in. I mean, it's...
They're so good, aren't they?
It's just crazy, man.
All right. I'm going to find a way to get there.
Oh, and one more. If you have a car and you park in the car park, the Jewel used to be a car park. I guess the car park is below it now. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
If you put, I'm sure other airports have that in the world, but I was trying out the buttons at a touchscreen. If you put your license plate, it locates exactly where your car is into the car park and how to get there.
Of course it does.
Anyway, fantastic stuff. Because it was the end of the holy month of Ramadan, Singapore celebrates all the religions. The second day was there, it was a day off, but the rehearsals of that party were happening whilst I was going into the city, and you had flybys, and there was this helicopter that had a flag of Singapore that was probably the size of Switzerland flying over Singapore. It was absolutely fantastic. Oh, and I stayed at the new Kempinski.
Oh, yeah.
Which wants to be the answer to Raffles. Raffles is still under renovation. That's a great hotel, man. You should try it. So then I'm flying back, and this time I'm flying with Singapore Airlines first and EVA Air second. That was a very good deal as well. So Singapore, the Dreamliner -10 to Bangkok. I was at the airport at 4:50 a.m. Besides the fact that I hate there's security at the gate, again, that airport just works.
Yeah.
The one thing they should implement is that you have these e-gates for passports, and they say, you can do that if you're a Singaporean, a resident of Singapore, or a registered traveler. And I guess you must be able to register somewhere. I wish we could do that with our passport the same way we do in some other airports nowadays.
Yeah, it would be much easier.
Because I had to wait quite a while because since it was so early in the morning, there was only one manned booth open. But anyway, it worked. So the Dreamliner Dash 10 for Singapore, I know that some of our listeners have flown it. I don't think you've done it.
Not from Singapore, no. I've only ever done the 380 and the 777 with them.
So that's the new seat, the narrower, like the more normal seat, not
this couch.
Look, it's narrow, but it's very well done. You still have a great privacy. I had a 17A, I think, so a true window one. There's a nice padding on both sides, a nice armrest. You can recognize the touches of SQ, the losange type of padding on the seat and on the pillow. The tray, again, a la ANA, there's like dual USB, there's a contactless stuff, there's the headset is probably one of the most comfortable headsets I ever had, better than the Q, by the way.
Wow.
The IFE is snappy as F. The new safety video by Singapore is this people walking through old Singapore, and they are like in a spa, and it's super well done. It's magnificent. The cinematography on that video it's maybe not fun as some other airlines do it, but it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this airline, I'll say this, I hadn't flown them for a year. This is the best airline in the world.
Wow.
There's just I mean, Cathay is there, but this is just edges it.
I haven't flown on Singapore Airlines in about 4 years.
I tested the live flight. I didn't have to. The flight was supposed to be 2 hours and a half, but actually we did it in 1:40, so it was no time to sleep. Even as someone told me, I would sleep fine. The cubicle is wide, it's roomy, it's lots of space. I would even say I love the Q from Qatar. It's one of the best seats in the world. The Q from Qatar, from someone tall, I hurt my knees every single time I fly the Q. I touch my knees on something. In this, it's just bliss.
I gotta try it.
It's just bliss, man. One thing I did is I destroyed the overhead bin without wanting to. I put my bag, and the Dreamliners have the motor, the engine in the bins.
Oh yeah, just sort of like an assisted
help you. Yes. Well, I just pushed it too hard, and then the engine simply wouldn't stop. We were taxiing. It was, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry, Singapore Airlines. Don't ban me from flying with you guys. I'm so sorry. They don't give you an amenity kit, but I guess for an hour and 40 minutes, come on, it just makes sense. The Wi-Fi, however, man, I mean, they give you 30 megabytes. I don't even try it. Don't give anything. No. And you can link your phone to your seat and control.
Oh, yeah.
The IFE. It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
I didn't do it. They give you like a pairing code, I guess Bluetooth, I guess it would be. Or maybe it's the contactless. I didn't try it, but no, they're good, man. The crew was fantastic. The food was fantastic. Man, I don't know what to say. I mean,
they've really done it themselves proud recently, and they've turned it around completely.
Singapore Airlines is just. It's important to say that because then I move on to the next flight.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing about this.
Just one last thing on Singapore. Singapore announced more reason for you to fly it. Every single business class in their fleet will be live flight by next year.
Wow. They're throwing everything at this.
And even Silk Air.
Oh, wow.
They are integrating Silk Air more into their own company, and they want to have live flight on Silk Air as well.
Well, they're going to be hard to compete with, aren't they?
Yeah, almost impossible. I learned as well when I was in Singapore that there's also some kind of a first terminal. Unlike, for instance, Lufthansa, when you have to be first to go there, you can pay. It's not cheap, but you can pay and have meet and greet, personal immigration, car seat to the aircraft. No matter the airline, it doesn't have to be private, it could be commercial. Clearly, mustn't be very cheap, but you can do that at Singapore, Changi.
Just go completely baller.
It's called Jetquay. Yeah, Jetquay. And clearly, when I was taking off from Singapore, they clearly are building the new part of Changi. Man, this is huge.
Yeah, the pictures that you posted on Instagram were something else.
I mean, they had a third runway, which was military use when the airbase was. So the airbase is now somewhere else. The runway has now finished to being augmented to become a full runway. There's still no taxiway to go back, so it's still not in use, but they've already renamed the runway. And this big area of reclaimed land is full construction. I went online to look at it. It will be a terminal for Singapore, 50 million passenger. I mean, it's like 10 times the size of the others. I mean, it looks super huge. huge, man. They will go a little bit, I guess, like a lot of airports do nowadays, like Heathrow. There will be, I guess, B, C, D. There'll be multiple buildings, I guess, with underpass and everything.
It'll be like T5.
Yeah, but man, I don't know, just massive. Have you ever visited Kallang, the old airport in Singapore?
No, I haven't.
So you guys can see the building. It's an architectural landmark. It's next to the stadium. The stadium used to be the runway, actually, so you cannot see the runway anymore. You cannot go into the building. It's a building from the 1930s.
Oh, beautiful.
And Alex, it's up for rental.
Uh-oh.
We need to move our HQ there, and we'll be in an airport in Singapore. Just saying.
Yeah, why not?
So then, EVA Air. So Kyle, I think it was Kyle, a listener who wrote us a few episodes ago. We have to fly EVA. It's better than Singapore business.
Strong words.
No. In a nutshell, no. It's hard for me because after having that kind of high expectations, I was expecting, honestly, to have, I don't know, a seat that is the size of my office or something.
Yeah.
To have like something that was completely out of the ordinary, to be better than Singapore. When we're talking Singapore Cathay, we're talking the best airlines in the world. It's really hard to beat. No. I'm in Bangkok. They have a fantastic lounge, which looks like, the chain, the W hotels. I'm not a big fan, to be frank, of the W hotels. It feels like you're in a nightclub, basically. That's the lounge. But the lounge has one feature that you will enjoy. That's pizza.
What?
3 sorts of pizzas.
Wow. So okay. So we'll add that to the very small list of pizza providing lounges.
The EVA Air Evergreen Lounge has double pepperoni pizza, bacon super delight, and veggie pizza. And it was 9 a.m., man. I tried the 3 of them. I wanted to try them, and they're very, very good. The actual pizzas, man, very, very happy. I enter EVA Air, and it's a 777-300ER, probably around 12 years old. First of all, I didn't know that EVA was flying not only Bangkok to Amsterdam, which was the route I was doing, but also Bangkok to London. I didn't realize that they were doing these types of routes, but that was great for me to try them. Look, you remember when I talked about Asiana and I said that everything was a bit rushed? It was a bit sometimes robotic.
Yeah.
Same. You enter the flight, I'm putting my stuff, etc. In the first 4 minutes, I'm not kidding, in the first 4 minutes, she had asked me if I wanted a juice or water. She gave me the towel. She gave me a chocolate. I don't know why. She gave me pajamas. I got the menu. She asked me immediately, not even 30 seconds, what kind of food I wanted. I'm like, I haven't even put my stuff in the storage next to the seat, right? And we're talking super fast. I'm like, okay, let me take a look at the menu. This pretty nice menu. I choose my options. She takes the menu off my hands and leaves.
Really?
No, we're still boarding. And they did that not only with me, with everyone. They asked me in advance, because there was also the wine list. We're talking about 11 hours flights, guys. Yeah. In advance, all the drink choices I wanted for the rest of the flight. And then took everything away from me.
Well, that's just bizarre.
I'm like, so meaning later in the flight when I wanted to switch and I said I want to try another wine,
you could
can I say the other white? Because I couldn't remember and she wouldn't even at that point bring me the menu back for me to take a look at. It was not out of being mean. The customer service just isn't there for that. They are very process-based. Literally, I'm not kidding. The first 4 minutes, she had done everything that she would have usually done in 1 hour in other flights. And I was like, okay.
That's so strange.
And it's a day flight. It's not even a flight where you want to sleep 10 hours of the 11,
right.
And so they would go fast, like we said about my Cathay going from San Francisco to Hong Kong. Man, I didn't get it. 11 and 30 minutes flight, and she was so fast. It's,
Seems like a missed opportunity.
It was a bit abrupt because it was rushed, but let's be honest, they were very polite, very nice, very kind. They were not overly friendly. I said it a lot about Asian airlines, sometimes a bit too process-based. Mm-hmm. But come on, compared to Cathay, and not even talking about Singapore, there's no comparison whatsoever. Wow. The seats are very similar to the ones you have on Cathay Pacific business class. They're not older. They're probably the same generation. They're a little bit less fancy and also less modern compared to Cathay Pacific. Probably a bit tighter, including the cubicle, but still very comfortable to fly. They give you a cover which acts as the mattress,
right.
And then a duvet, which is very nice as well. The pajamas are also very nice. So I mean, the level is there. They offer you pajamas. Not every airline offers you pajamas in business class. The headsets were really nice. The Wi-Fi, for instance, is there. We're talking about 12 years old aircraft. So they are really actually putting all the right bits and pieces.
Right.
It's just that the service doesn't follow.
It's disappointing.
What was very interesting as well is that they run ads when we're taxiing. On the IFE.
For third parties or for themselves?
For third parties, for stuff you can buy on the duty-free stuff.
Well, I'd say had to do that, but it's more like for business parks and stuff like that.
Oh, well. The Wi-Fi was $30 for 300 megabytes. I still did it because after a while I was so freaking bored because it was a day flight. It works pretty well. It's not Qatar, but it works pretty well. I mean, the rest of the experience is okay, man. I probably, if I didn't have had that expectations, I would have liked it far more. But if I give a ranking, you have Singapore Cathay, very high. Then you have Emirates, Qatar, probably ANA and JAL. And then Asiana, and then this.
Wow. So that's,
Probably this is to Cathay what Thai is to Singapore. Probably Thai is better than EVA. But I mean, it's okay. But they try to do the right stuff, but they don't know how. Some airlines says, do you want to taste the wine? So I'm like, okay, I want to taste the wine. Then she fills my glass fully and asks me to taste it. I'm like, yeah, but you just basically give me a full glass.
Right.
You still want me to taste it?
What if you don't like it? Yeah.
Exactly. It's just not there yet. I don't know how to explain that. Just doesn't. No, they don't read you. I don't know.
So interesting.
Man. Like during the whole flight, so they do the service, they give you the food, and then it seems that they disappear. There's no one. And
I don't like that.
Then I try to get a coffee, and I'm fine. I'm like, what the hell are they? And I find someone, and the coffee takes 15 minutes to arrive, which is no problem because sometimes you have to reheat the machine or whatever. But you compare that to a Singapore or an Emirates when you ask for a coffee, and it comes on a tray with a biscuit or cookie or chocolates. No, none of that. And the food was okay. I mean, more than okay. It was Chinese influenced or Chinese, really good food. I couldn't just remember what I was eating because I didn't have the menu. You remember, they had removed that after 4 minutes in the pre-flight procedures. I couldn't know what I was eating. The whole thing, the tray was well presented, very Chinese as well, but very nice. But it felt so rushed and I wasn't enjoying any of this. For such long flights, 11 hours, you have a round of snacks usually. They had one single round of snacks, only crisps, which is okay. And then they disappeared and there was no snacks left, in the galley or elsewhere as they do, like bars in brackets, nothing like that. I wasn't hungry. I was just stretching my legs and seeing that there was absolutely nothing and no one either in the two cabins of the business class. There's no first. I don't know. It felt empty. It felt as if I was left by myself. I felt as alone as in the queue suite, only that I didn't have a door, but just that there was no one. And when we landed, another example, we had some food, which was strangely enough some kind of breakfast, but we're landing at 7. I mean, it didn't make any sense. But anyway, you have the pre-landing procedures, seat upright, tray, etc. The blinds. And they were still saying that PA announcement, and she came all over me. I was watching a movie without addressing me, without looking at me. She just bent over me, opened my two blinds, which I was about to open. You know me, guys. I would not just leave them closed. She just quickly opened them, blocking the view of the movie. I didn't care. It's fine. I can go back to see the movie. But I was like, okay. Every other airline I've been to, they will say, oh, please, sir, can you open the blinds or something like that? Or just make a sign. I always remove my headphones with a flight attendant is looking at me. I mean, guys, really, we're talking very entitled here. Like, I don't want to chocolate my coffee, but it's not. I was expecting something amazing.
Yeah. Wow, that's disappointing to hear.
It is. I wouldn't go out of my way to fly them again.
No, I was just going to say that. So that sounds like I shouldn't go out of my way.
Yeah. It's probably lack of training. Maybe it's a bit cultural, but it's probably not lack of training. Not training done in what they should do, like pay a little bit more attention to details. Like they have the tray, there's sparkling water and normal water. They only serve you normal water. They don't ask you, would you like still a sparkling? So they start serving me and they're like, can I have the sparkling? And then she takes my glass off without saying anything, puts some sparkling water. Why is it to me to see that there's a bottle of San Pellegrino right there? And I had to ask, it's just... I don't know.
That sounds like a
common sense, man.
Service culture thing.
But they were, again, do not misread me, guys. They were very kind, very nice, very polite. They're not overly friendly, but I felt, Japan Airlines and ANA can be sometimes process-based, but you have a rapport. Asiana, is closer to this. It is a lack of rapport. I was trying to make a chit chat to smile in. I'm very engaging. Nothing. Okay, I'll say that. Maybe it was my only flight in EVA. Maybe I was unlucky. Maybe there's other flights that are amazing and I've just missed out. But yeah, well, as a brand, they didn't get me.
Wow.
Anyway, I didn't want to be obnoxious thinking that I should be treated as royalty. That's not the point.
Right.
It's yeah. So my highlights on these flights were clearly the Qatar Airways 320, this Singapore Airlines 78000. The QR 350 with the Q suite was a good flight, but was more normal. But that one, EVA Air, no, I don't think I'll fly them again.
Wow, that's such a disappointing. I'm so disappointed to hear that.
I am too. Oh well. Okay, there you go. I arrived in Amsterdam. I did some work with Booking.com. That was fascinating. I wish I could tell you more. They have some ex-Google people. So it's interesting, ex-Google travel people. It's fascinating. But I'm NDA, so I cannot say anything on this podcast. But it was great to work with guys like those. And let's do 2-3 little feedbacks, and then we'll go to the airport because Alex has to go very soon. On Instagram @_siege__ sent us a picture, since we're talking about pizza at EVA Air. Sent us the pizza in BA. I think we mentioned in the last episode as the landing snack. It looks actually pretty good because I've never seen it. Did you try pizza in one of your flights? No.
Yeah.
You did?
On frequent, yeah, it's fine.
I never know when Alex says it's fine if it's good or not.
Yeah, it's good.
sborch6587 on Twitter. He's very happy that you've been to Toronto. He would like to take you out for a meal, but now you're back in London. So
I'll definitely be going back. I really dug that city.
He says that Air Canada Transformer, I guess that's the name of a lounge, they have pizza. So that's nice.
Becoming a trend.
Yes. Michael Leppa at Rollofunk on Twitter, long-time listener, said that Finnair is also launching whisky. So we said last episode that BA was doing one. Finnair is doing one for their 100 years. But you know what? Maybe they're smarter. The 100 years of Finnair are coming up. They're not today. So basically, Finnair is now maturing the whiskey that will be delivered when they are 100. Whereas
Sensible.
BA is like going to be like in 10 years or 12 years. Made with Kiro Distillery. And you can see the maturing process in the lounge.
That's a good idea.
Shout out to Haley at Haley Scotty on Twitter. She wrote about Diet Coke and the fizz after listening to a podcast on the national.ae, which is a paper in the UAE. So thank you, Haley, so much for making the headlines now, Alex, because of Diet Coke.
My pleasure.
And I'll finish, because I think I need to mention it, with my flight from Amsterdam to London after the thing I did a booking, because I stayed 7 hours in the airport yesterday, man. There were huge winds over Europe, so there was a lot of delays due to the winds. Then there was the Queen's Birthday Parade.
Yeah, the Trooping of the Colour, yeah.
So they closed Heathrow, I think, for 20-25 minutes to allow for the Red Arrows to fly over London. So that was an added delay, which is fine. I'm all for it. So my flight is delayed by 2 hours at that point. It's okay. I'm in Amsterdam. It's a good enough airport to stay at and wait for. I was to the Heineken bar. Our flight arrives, and suddenly I see the pilot coming out of the aircraft, which is very rare, and taking the microphone. I'm like, why? The pilot is talking to the gate. Well, we were hit by lightning. We need to make some checks. And like, oh shit. 10 minutes later, we apologize. Our plane is too badly damaged. We won't be taking off. The flight is cancelled. Have you ever seen an aircraft hit by lightning that cannot... What? Wow.
No. I was really surprised because usually it just goes in and out. So it must have done some pretty substantial damage for them to cancel the flight.
Which meant that you need to go to ticketing. And if you know Amsterdam Airport, ticketing is maybe 5 kilometers away because you have to get all the way out. Everybody starts running. I do as well. And then I said, I'm not going to be probably the first one because I have luggage and some people have nothing. I called BA. Thank God I'm an executive gold card member. Can you give me on the next one? Yeah, you got the last seat.
Interestingly, one of the things that I learned on this flight is that the American Airlines app is outstanding, but all of that stuff is done via the app.
Exactly. I was thinking that, why can't I just press a button, choose my alternative option directly on the app? It should be done there.
Yeah, that's absolutely how it should be.
Literally every single other person on the flight that was supposed to be on that got canceled didn't get a seat. And just because maybe I used to, I called, and I also got fast track because I have access to this line. Well, I got the seat and no one else got it. So it was the last flight to London, the one I got. So everybody basically stayed there. I had still, and that's another thing that Lufthansa would do it. I couldn't get the new boarding pass. I had to walk back to check in, not ticketing, but check-in, just to print a boarding pass. And I saw they had this big stack of vouchers for hotels, so that gave me the too bad. So, YYZ.
YYZ.
YYZ. And YYZ. So how was that? Did you like it as an airport?
Yeah, it's okay. It's well connected. It's well organized. Both of my flights arrived and departed on time, even though we were on this weird remote gate. And I do love the fact that you can go through American immigration and customs there in Toronto, which just makes the whole process easier. Yeah. And then you go to this separate terminal, which is just for American flights. And it's small, and I think there's probably 9 gates. But there was a small American Airlines lounge that was fine. And right next to it was a Plaza Premium lounge. You've got all that. And yeah, coming in was a bit of a pain in the butt. It's not a superb airport by any stretch of the imagination, but it's functional. You can get into town using the Union Pearson Express train, which takes you right to Union Station in the middle of downtown Toronto in about 25 minutes. And it's got Wi-Fi, and it's a big, comfortable Amsterdam-style train. So very, very easy. Lots to look at on the ramp. If you get a good vantage point, there's a lot of different reasonably unusual airlines. The Emirates flight was there when was taxiing with us, as well as lots of Chinese airlines, Cathay, and then these airlines that go up into northern Canada that are half cargo, half passenger, the old 737s, which is kind of cool to see. But yeah, it's fine. It's a functional, clean, very Canadian airport.
You would do a layover?
I would, yeah, because you can get into town so easily. It didn't feel, and I only had access to a little bit of it, of course, it didn't feel as big as Vancouver Airport, but I'm very sure that can't be the case because it's, Toronto's the economic hub of Canada, so, and a quarter of the country's population live there. So I'm sure it's just because I was accessing a little bit. And there's 2 terminals. There's Terminal 1 and Terminal 3. There's no Terminal 2 because it was absorbed into Terminal 1 about 12 years ago. So it does kind of exist and then it doesn't exist. But yeah, so
if you have a ticket for Terminal 2,
you're not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody sold you a fake ticket.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool. It's a fine airport. I'm already looking forward to going back to Toronto and exploring it a little bit more.
I think you went back to Billy Bishop, the other Toronto airport.
We did, yeah, because we took a flight with Toronto Helitours in one of their Robinson 44s, and they are based out of Billy Bishop, which is, as I've talked about in a previous episode, such a wonderful airport. They now have the walkway open, so you can walk from downtown Toronto underneath this waterway to the island that Billy Bishop is on, and you pop right out there in the terminal, and away you go. And the helicopter goes from the general aviation ramp, which is just this little corner of the airfield, and up and away we went over downtown.
That's very cool. And because I think, YYZ has, 5 runways? It's massive.
It's huge.
It's huge. I think, I've read it, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it is one, if not the airport with the most international destinations, at least in North America. It has more than 160 international destinations. JFK has maybe 130. So it is really like a gateway to pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it's the second busiest international airport in the Americas, whatever that means.
Okay.
And that's by far it is the biggest and busiest airport in Canada then.
Yeah. So, and why YYZ? So I think we had that stories many times.
Very early on, yeah.
Right. So why? The first Y is because under IATA rules, every single airport in Canada starts with Y. Yeah. I don't even know why that rule is, by the way, but that's all the airports in Canada. The major ones start with Y. Hence, for instance, Vancouver is YVR, which also means yes, very rainy, right?
Yeah.
But YYZ, I think YZ was not like a meteor,
a weather station,
weather station or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that still doesn't explain why that meteor station was called YZ, but that's how it is, YYZ. Why not YTO, for instance, is because, as we just mentioned, there are other airports in Toronto. There's Billy Bishop, but there's also another municipal airport like Buttonville, I think. So YTO is a code for Toronto Metro, if you want. Like LON is for London, covering all the airports in London. So
the Y, from what I remember, the second Y was whether or not the reporting weather station was also at an airport. And
Yeah, there's something
W
like that,
was,
yes.
it wasn't, and U, so for Montreal, YUL, right?
And Calgary is YYC, so maybe that's
also
so
had
something.
It had like a navigational beacon or something like that, but I'm sure somebody will let us know.
In Ottawa is YOW. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think you're right. Fascinating. If anyone knows why IATA said at the start that all airports in Canada should be starting with Y, because no one says that all airports in, I don't know, France has to start with F.
Right.
F would even make sense because that's
interesting, isn't it?
France. I have no idea. At some point, I think, by the way, don't you think that they will have to go for 4 letters? Because
Eventually.
they're going to probably run out of letters in these IATA code names, probably. What are your next flights, man?
I'm going to New York in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to that. Yep, on American.
Again.
No, wait.
You're
They're on
very
British Airways back on American.
Okay. I don't know if we will record before that or after. We'll see, depending on our schedules. As for me, I'm going to Geneva and probably to Istanbul as well before our next recording and other stuff coming up. But Alex has to go. It's very important duties. Probably flying an aircraft somewhere. He doesn't want to tell me. Happy travels.
All right, man. Safe travels, guys.